was a fantastic speech by Good Omar. Thank you very much. I refer to his statement that I have seen people murdered in front of my own eyes. Of course, it is evident and it is blatant that this is severe punishment for crimes that people who have not committed them. And it is a shame that it still exists today. Let's hope that Mr. Obama closes it down. Next we have the ex-guard of Guantanamo Bay, whose job was to look after prisoners, the daily maintenance, to make sure that they are eating and to make sure that they have enough toilet roll, etc., etc. Chris would like to remind you all that in the question and answer session, if it's possible, that we have one question per person and one question to each of the speakers. Thank you very much. We'd like to invite Chris Aaron.
I need an escort team when I speak now.
Before we start, what we do, myself and Chris, this probably wasn't explained properly, is a double act. I will ask Chris questions, in fact I'll interrogate him about his time in Guantanamo Bay, and the tables have been turned. So before I do that, there's just one thing I wanted to mention to you about Omar, and that is that, and what he said. You may not have missed it because he said a lot of things, and it's probably very difficult to digest all of it. But he said something about that there's one prisoner whose eye was gouged out. Prisoner 727. Omar is prisoner 727. Chris, yourself and me have been touring around the country. We've just popped over from Sheffield, and before that we were in Bristol, we were in Brighton, we were in parts of the I guess that in some cases I've never even been to.
Picking up random stragglers along the way.
Stragglers along the way, like Omar. And you have been exposed to us, former detainees, the world's most dangerous men, as according to President Bush. Are you scared?
Not now. I was scared when I was riding with Tarek, but that's mostly just because he's only got one arm and he was driving a stick shift and talking on his phone at the same time. That was terrifying. But
let's start with Tarek then. When was the last time you saw Tarek? Tarek is a Guantanamo detainee. He was released in 2004. Explain to me the circumstances when you last saw him before you put him in the UK.
The last time I saw him, he was Oscar 12.
Which means?
He was in Oscar block in the 12th cell. And he was begging for toilet paper, and it was my first day on the blocks, first time inside Camp Delta, and I was getting him some toilet paper, and we had a little bit of a lawyering session, which happens every once in a while, when I tried to give him the 8 sheets of paper that the SOP says, the standard operating procedure, and he said, it's 3 rolls around the hand, and I was like, A, you speak English? And they didn't tell me you guys spoke English, and then B, no, it's not.
They didn't tell you you were human.
No, they didn't. Yeah,
Figure that one out for yourself.
yeah, they really didn't tell us much of anything about you guys except that you were, incredibly dangerous and skillful toilet paper knife makers.
I'm going to quiz you on this. What do you mean by toilet paper knife? I mean, what does that mean?
It's a knife made out of toilet paper.
And it can actually hurt you?
Well, we tried to make one in the hotel the other day, and it didn't really seem to be all that dangerous.
But in your training before you were sent to Guantanamo Bay, you were actually trained how to deal with being stabbed by a toilet paper knife because detainees are apt at making it.
Yeah, we practiced by stabbing each other with something more dangerous than a toilet paper knife, a rubber knife, which actually hurt way more than a toilet paper knife would. And then for about two solid days, the most we trained on anything, I got to get stabbed with a rubber knife by people with like 3 times as big as me that hated me anyway, so it was like beat up Chris Day.
And so when eventually you handed over some toilet paper, whether it was 8 sheets or 3 rolls of toilet paper around your hand. How did Tarek react?
He grabbed my arm and pulled me into the cell through the bean holes, and I was like, whoa, 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 man, come on, like, this is my first day, I don't know how to do this, I don't know what I'm doing, cut me some slack, like, I didn't put you down here, I don't know what's going on, but he was pretty pissed off. He was a really angry dude that day, for a good reason. I mean, he'd been, you know, illegally detained for a couple of years, so.
And then, fast forward 5 years later, you meet him in London at a restaurant.
Yeah,
what did you say?
Fatouche. I don't remember. We didn't really talk about much. We just kind of chatted like as if we were just 2 dudes chatting, just so we didn't have to talk to all the lawyers in the room.
Tarek has 1 arm
and a stick shift car. I know, it's crazy.
And he drove you around the city of London. What about you like?
Terrifying. But I mean, we got some good talking in. He you know, got me up to speed on some of the you know, formalities of Islamic culture and what it is to be a Muslim. And he comes from a, you know, interesting place. He's got kind of a dodgy background, so for like yeah, well, I'm definitely not. I don't have the cleanest background myself. Yeah, but so you know, it was we shared some hobbies before in his past you know, pre-Islam life that I did as a kid. So, you know, talking about some of these things, were you know, seeing how how his life's been since has been.
Most people consider that anybody who went to Guantanamo Bay is probably a monster, somebody who loves torture, somebody who volunteered to go there. What was the process that took you to Guantanamo?
Well, I was a monster that loved torture. I mean, no, I'm sorry. That's I just joined. I joined the National Guard for college money. Really, I was just trying to. Yeah, your territorial, your weekend warriors. Yeah, the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, never going to be deployed, made to stay in the nation.
How old were you when you joined the army?
17. Super good decision making time.
By the way, was something that might take you to war. Did you understand this? I mean, it is the.
Well, I mean, I understood it about as much as I understood that I was like in love for life with a girl that I ended up breaking up with 2 months later. Anyway, like, I mean, like you know, I was 17 years old. Like, I didn't really understand much of anything. I was, you know, I couldn't even pass math class. Like, I certainly didn't really do the math on 6-year enlistment.
And then when eventually you were told you were going to go to Guantanamo Bay, and they debriefed you about us, what was your perception about it? What did you think you were going to be doing there, and who did you think you were going to be doing it to?
Well, I mean, I really had no former understanding of. I knew that everybody there was Arab and Muslim. Yeah, but so that's not even true. We like to stereotype. And I knew that, you know, you guys were all accused of terrorism, but it was the government and the army telling me this, so that was more than likely a gigantic lie. So, well, I didn't really know much of anything. I mean, not really anything about you guys at all.
But you did, when you got there in 2004, and you stayed there for about 10 months, which was the extent of your tour of duty. What's the most potent thing that you came across in terms of learning and experience of your life regarding these men, regarding us?
It's kind of hard to defragment all that information. It kind of sits in my brain like one chunk of, you know. So, I mean,
was it a realization of who you were, who Chris Arrett was, what is he doing, what does he plan to do with the rest of his life, or was it more about?
No, it was a realization of what human beings are and what universal freedoms and you know who Chris Arrett was and who all of the, you know, detainees and who every one of the other guards, and understanding how we all fit into the same system as human beings, and it just widened the philosophical scope of my ethical quandaries at the time, and you know, kind of opened my perspective up a lot to what real freedom is and how that can be taken from people by lies.
Of course, you saw those people, you witnessed them, you were involved in the escorts and taking or physically moving detainees from one